One last housekeeping announcement is that there is interpretation available. If you are on a desktop, there will be either a globe at the bottom or three dots that say more. Click the globe that says interpretation and select your channel that you would like to listen to the audio in. There may be an additional setting to adjust the original audio so that it doesn't sound like overlay. And I'm going to make this announcement in Spanish as well. Muchas gracias por estar aquí hoy. Esta sesión va a tener interpretación. Si está en una computadora, va a haber un globo o tres puntos. Y si selecciona ese globito o los tres puntos para poder seleccionar qué canal o qué lenguaje gustaría escuchar el audio original, ahí va a estar. A veces se puede oír el audio original abajo, entonces hay otras configuraciones que puede seleccionar para que no se oiga el audio original. So welcome everybody to La Resistencia's first webinar around our work around the monitoring and observation of the deportation, the ICE flights out of King County Airport. My name is Josefina Mora Chung. I use she and they pronouns, and I'm the Director of Organizing for La Resistencia. We could go to the next slide. So this session is a very special session. We are not only here to talk today about the work that we are doing as La Resistencia, as a community group that is keeping an eye on ICE's and GEO Group's activities during the ICE flights that are happening out of King County Airport in Seattle. We are also going to be announcing and launching our second report around our work around the ICE flights. We released a report last year in 2025 to be able to uh, uh, publish some of the data that we'd collected throughout the year. And this year, our report is specifically around some of the incompliances around the ICE flights, the ways that the ICE flights have not been following policies, and the lack of accountability that has been happening with these policies that were set by King County and the King County Airport. So today we're going to talk a little bit about La Resistencia and our work at the airport, since for folks that are not familiar with us. We're going to also talk a little bit about our history at the work of our work at the airport, as well as some of the data that we've been able to collect of ICE air activity, specifically at the King County Airport. And then we'll have some wonderful volunteers of ours who help with observations, talk a little bit about their experiences and what they're seeing during these ICE flights. Then we will give a brief overview of the Incompliance Report and share a link to the report as well. And then we'll be closing with a message from our executive director, Rufina Reyes, as well as a call to action in a way that all of you can also continue to pressure for accountability during these ICE flights. We ask that people hold their questions until the end, when we will then open the chat and allow for folks to ask us questions directly, just so that we're able to reel in all the questions and comments that people may have. If we could go to the next slide. So, for folks that are not familiar with La Resistencia was founded in March of 2014 to support people on hunger strike in the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma, Washington. We originally started as a way to support people on hunger strike, and since then have developed various campaigns on the outside to continue to pressure for not only the freedom of people in detention, but also the permanent closure of the Northwest Detention Center. We believe that all detention should be abolished and that all immigrants detained should be free of any form of chains. We aim to end deportations and end detention in Washington state and beyond. We developed our work at the King County Airport to center the message around stopping deportations of community members who are deported or transferred in shackles, and to end the profiting off of this dehumanization and suffering of immigrants are profiting off that people are profiting off of the detention of people at the Northwest Detention Center and other detention centers across across the nation. Before we move into the history of what has happened at the King County Airport, La Resistencia would also like to thank some of our partners who have been really supportive and fighting alongside us in this work, including South End Indivisible, Sudu for Solidarity, Internation networks and allies who are doing similar work, such as us, such as Ground Ice, and other coalitions and collectives, such as Troublemakers and unions, such as Protect 17 and SEIU 775. So, thank you to all of our partners and all the individuals who may be on this call who have supported us in our work and have also showed up to our actions. And now I'd like to pass it to our No ICE Flights coordinator, Guadalupe Gonzalez, to talk a little bit about the history and the data that we've been seeing at the King County Airport.
Well, hello everyone. As Josefina just introduced, I help coordinate stuff for La Resistencia pertaining to the immigration flights that are coming in and out of King County every week. So, without further ado, I want to give a brief overview of the history of ICE Air here in King County Airport, because I'm aware a lot of folks don't know what's been happening for all these years, as well as just share some of the data that La Resistencia has exclusively collected. And I say exclusively because King County is not collecting any of these numbers, which is going to be a recurring motif throughout this entire presentation. So, in 2019, after pressure from migrant rights groups like La Resistencia, King County Executive Dow Constantine issued an executive order which essentially banned ICE from King County Airport by prohibiting contractors within the airport from working for ICE. When I say pressure, I do mean pressure. At that time, the King County executive and the governor were both kind of like positioning themselves for elections. So we thought it was a good opportunity to really turn up the pressure, because up to that point, they were kind of denying and they weren't mentioning the role of King County in facilitating ICE activity. However, before his order even came into effect, Modern Aviation, the FBO for ICE, announced it would stop working with the agency entirely. An FBO is a fixed-based operator. A fixed-based operator is essentially a company that's in charge of servicing flights, like giving them fuel, ensuring that everything's good to go. You can think about it like a pit stop in a race. And that's a picture of Modern Aviation right there. Can I go to the next slide? So after Modern Aviation stopped working with ICE, ICE shopped around Washington State. They looked everywhere, and they were continuously turned down by FBOs. But eventually, they did find one in Yakima who was willing to work with them. So after this point, ICE began going to Yakima. Of course, they would rather do it in King County because it's closer to the detention center in Tacoma. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that the Trump-led Department of Justice started a lawsuit. And this lawsuit was carried on by the Biden administration. And in March of 2023, a U.S. district judge for Western Washington invalidated Dow Constantine's order, again, prohibiting contractors within the airport from working for ICE. And within a few weeks of that order being overturned, flights came back to King County Airport. Next slide, please. So, recognizing the gravity of what was going on, we decided to spearhead a campaign with volunteers, independent folks, people from other organizations that wanted to give up their time to help La Resistencia, to observe the deportation flights and tried to establish some type of community accountability for what was happening. And we were rather quick about it. We began observations weeks after they came back. This quick action should really serve as a model for King County, since all the way back in 2023, they have yet to do any observations with all the resources that they have. Next slide, please. So with no institutional support, from local authorities, our volunteers had to discover how to track flights on our own. Initially, when we started in 2023, carrying on into 2024, flights occurred weekly on Tuesdays. But with the beginning of the second Trump administration, everything changed in 2025. Particularly, we saw flights almost quadruple in volume, with 3 to 4 ICE air operations occurring weekly. And if you see the picture on the right, that's the ASMR illegal alien deportation flight, which the White House tweeted. That was actually filmed in King County Airport. Uh, Next slide, please. So, uh, from 2024 to 2025, one second. Yeah, from 2024 to 2025, Resistencia saw the number of migrants being deported almost quintuple, and the total amount of flights almost doubled in quantity. Uh, the flights only doubled because up to that point, often there were only a few amount of migrants on a flight on a plane. They started bringing more planes and just filling up the planes entirely. As of May 1st of this year, our numbers are almost equal to that of 2024 in its entirety. So as you can see, it's a very rapid escalation, and we've had to account for that as a network of volunteers and an organization without any support from the county. Next slide, please. So often when we talk about the flights leaving King County, we talk about them as deportation flights, and that can be confusing to some folks because a lot of those flights don't leave the U.S. Immediately. They'll often go to the southern border. The reason why we call them deportation flights is because those flights going into the southern border, I'm talking about Texas, Arizona, California. Uh, Once they arrive there, folks are typically driven to Mexico from the detention centers there, or flown deeper into Latin America. So in our eyes, a flight to the southern border is essentially a deportation because that's what happens shortly afterwards. And here's a graph of the airports that we've seen. Oh, uh, can we go back to the last slide? Yes, sorry. Here's a graph of the airports that we've seen heading towards. And as you can tell, a lot of these airports like El Paso, Arizona, GRK, that's also Texas, Alexandria, Dallas, San Diego, they're all within that southern border that I mentioned. And we sometimes do see flights to Louisiana, but those immediately go to the southern states. Next slide, please. Thank you. And I wanted to show another graph to demonstrate what I'm discussing. As you can tell, we're that little pink circle at the top left. All the flights that are coming out of King County are going strictly to that southern border, where folks are processed and then taken outside of the United States for deportations. Next slide, please. Uh, Now that I gave a bit of our history at the Northwest Detention Center, Now that I've given a bit of our history at the Northwest Detention Center, I want to introduce our first volunteer, Stan. Stan has really been essential to the work that we've done, and he's helped a lot with volunteers and observing flights. So I'll mute myself so Stan can speak.
Okay, thank you, Guadalupe. Hi, I'm Stan Shikuma. I'm a volunteer for La Resistencia in the Stop Ice Flights campaign. I'm also a member of Tutor for Solidarity. I work the campaign, the volunteer team. There's actually two teams of people. So there's one team that monitors the flights. Those are the folks who get on the computer and try to track flights to determine whether they're coming to King County or not, and if so, what time they would arrive. And once they determine that, then they post it. Um, and then the second team takes over, which is the observation team, which are the people who actually go to the airport, sit in front of monitors, and count how many people come off the plane, how many people get off the buses and get on the plane. And we've been doing that since they restarted the flights in 2023. Like Guadalupe was saying, that we started like a week or two after they restarted the flights. We had people down there counting how many people were getting on and off the plane. King County does not have or has not given us access to a direct line of sight place where we could stand with binoculars or just our eyeballs and watch people getting on and off the plane. So we've had to rely on video monitors. So what the King County has done is direct some cameras at the site where the planes park. And so we watch monitors. So one of the big problems with King County's process is the monitors themselves don't always work. So they go dark. They start, they freeze up. They lag behind. So now, first they gave us one monitor, then after a year or two, they gave us the second one. so we can get a different angle. And then recently they gave us a third and fourth monitor. So we have 4 cameras now. But sometimes they lag like really badly. Like camera 1 will be 10, 15, even 20 seconds behind camera 2, which makes it hard to count if they're that far apart. Or camera 1 will go dark or start spinning and freeze up. So that's one of the problems, is just how do we see people so that we're able to get accurate counts. And if we can't get good video monitor information, that makes it really difficult. One of the most upsetting things for people who are counting is watching folks being frisked like head to toe and being in chains. And sometimes they bring people in now who are not in chains, and once they get off the vehicle they're transported in, they put chains on them. So chains on their wrists, so they can only pull their wrists about 4 or 6 inches apart. And those chains are chained to a chain around their waist, so they can't lift their hands all the way to their mouth. So I don't know how they drink. And then they have their ankles chained together. And they have to walk up and down the stairs to get on and off the plane in those chains. So they can't really hold on to the railing, and they can't take big steps. So there's real risk of falls and other injuries that we're very concerned about. And we keep pressing King County like, this is a safety issue. This is people's safety that we're talking about, personal health. And we haven't been able to get any movement on that. Um, yeah, so I don't know if there's more you want me to say, Guadalupe, or should we pass it to Aaron?
I think you've said a lot of really important stuff, Stan. Thank you so much. Do you have anything else you'd like to add? Just any concerns or problems with the airport authorities, or?
Oh, well, yeah, the airport authorities have not been the most responsive. The people on the ground, the tech people, vary. Some of them are really supportive, or at least really responsive when we call in and say, hey, this camera isn't working, and they'll come and fix it right away. But some of them are kind of like, I'll get to it when I can. And it's clearly not a high priority for them. And I feel, my personal feeling is that the airport administration is kind of dragging its tail on this. Like, they got orders from the King County executive that they're supposed to help us do all these things, and they're trying to do as little as possible while staying within the boundaries of the order. And sometimes they don't even do what's in the order. So yeah, we need to put more pressure on the King County airport administrators.
Thank you so much, Stan. We're going to share a petition at the end of the webinar uh, that's going to be sent to the King County administration so that folks can, increase some of that pressure that Stan shared is essential. I'd like to bring up our next volunteer, who's also been a very great observer for Alara and has been present through a lot of our events and just brings a really good energy and consistent effort to the space. Aaron?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I am mostly on the tracking side, but a lot of us kind of do both in a pinch. And, on the tracking side, we kind of have to keep our eye on new patterns that develop. We feel like ICE is continually trying to kind of switch things up and trick us. For example, they snuck an extra plane in yesterday that the airport seems to have helped with. And if not for the eagle eyes of our observers, who saw sort of an extra truck go into the airfield, we wouldn't have figured out that this happened. So, I really give my hats off to our observers team that have developed into like quite a consistent crew. And every time I'm reading what they're putting forward, or I happen to go down and help them, I see, that there's very frequently hot fueling going on, which means that there's fueling going on when passengers are on the plane. We see, my friend Lassie kind of framed it as that the county airport is putting up obstacles to our clear observation, like moving the buses, parking the buses a little too close. They're supposed to be a certain distance, but these close distances are disallowing us to get good angles of especially the people being frisked and what kinds of treatment they're getting on the ground. But we do see, very heavy frisking, and like Stan said, people are having to walk shackled, and only the people that are in very dire physical shape are getting any kinds of assistance up and down these planks, these stairs. We see the stairs not fully connected to the door. We're doing all kinds of obvious things when we can. The cameras are glitchy on the screens in the room, but sometimes they're working on the public facing website. So that really gives us pause, like what's going on? This is the same camera feed, but for some reason it's not working in the very room that's sitting on the airport grounds. Um, and, um, you know, they know that we are an active team. We rarely miss a flight, but we weren't asked, oh, where should these four cameras? We're giving you four cameras now. Where should these four cameras be placed around this area where the ICE flights are mostly going to take part in? There are ways that they could have asked us what we needed, in lieu of letting us onto the airfield or do the observations with our eyeballs. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll just, thank our observation team again. It's a become a very close group of people, yet we still need more because fatigue is real. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate a lot of the things you said because they harken back to our report from last year, which it just shows how ongoing these problems have been. One of our biggest problems that we've been having continuously is asking the airport if they can give us a heads up as to what's going on, if they can give us a warning that these flights are coming in. Last year in our report, we discussed that we had emailed the airport and its director, co-director, asking, hey, could we get these heads up? And we were told, airport employees do not have knowledge of when the ICE flights will arrive. We just cannot help you with that. However, we obtained access to some emails that were obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests, like FOIA, like public information requests, where it's very clear that the employees for Signature, who was then working with ICE as the FBO, now it's Sky Services, that Signature was communicating with the airport about ICE's arrivals. So it's clear to us that to some extent, airport employees are aware of when ICE flights are coming in, yet they've chosen to not establish a clear line of communication with the community as to ICE's activity. So I do appreciate that you brought that up because that is a very big problem that we have. I guess since we're now discussing our problems with the airport and the new report, could we go to the next slide, please? So the image in this slide is actually the front of our new report, which we labeled All Clear for Terror. And the purpose of this report is really to showcase the rampant issues that we've been having with the airport, and more importantly, in our opinion, the county, because the county is accountable for the airport, in obstructing observations, and also how they failed to live up to a lot of their policies and executive orders pertaining to the airport as to how the information that they should release, and also how they should increase transparency. Josefina just posted the report. The report itself is almost 50 pages, and I know that's very long and unapproachable for a lot of folks, but I think it showcases how rampant the problems are. So I can't really go over the entire report or else we'd be here for a couple hours, but I just want to talk about some of the issues within it some of the things that Stanley and Stan, sorry, I was reading your Zoom name, that Stan and Aaron discussed, and yeah, some of our communications. Could we go to the next slide, please? And last thing I'll say is please feel free to share the report. We're going to put it up on our website within the next few hours. It should be there by tomorrow. And yeah, share it around, share it to any orgs that ask you about what's going on at the airport, because we really feel that it reflects the last couple of years or the entirety of our work there. So the first, and I dare say one of the biggest issues, because it's such a safety concern that we've had at the airport, is the hot fueling that the volunteers were discussing. Hot fueling, as was mentioned, is basically the act of the plane being fueled while people are boarding, on board, or deboarding. It's considered very unsafe since fires, anything can happen in terms of safety concerns. And the FAA has strict regulations around hot fueling. The FAA typically only allows hot fueling if there are emergency escape plans, if there are signs posted like the no smoking sign, and also if folks have their seatbelts off. And of course, when you think about people having their seatbelts off, that doesn't really apply with the excessive shackling. Well, all shackling is excessive, but with the shackling that's happening in these planes. Uh, we have been warning the county and the airport about this since October of last year, at least. And we have been letting them know that Sky Service is going against the airport's rules, because even the airport's rules, Section 7.8 of them, that was updated November of last year, state that this is explicitly prohibited. It is not allowed. We have been warning the airport and the county that these rule violations are happening, yet nothing's been done. No action has been taken against Sky Service. Uh, this is incredibly unsafe, and we really don't know what would happen if a fire were to break out or if something were to go wrong while everyone is shackled within the plane. I've emailed, the director, and I've basically been told I've either been ignored, and that part of the message hasn't really been responded to, or I've been told, well, we have this new position that we are going to develop with the county, and in the future they'll hopefully address it. And that goes back all the way to January of this year when we did a really big action at the airport, and the executive came to speak. Uh, After he spoke, we met with them, and this meeting happened weeks upon weeks afterwards. We were kind of ghosted for a bit. And when we met with them, they told us they were going to, well, they didn't tell us anything, but they listened to our complaints around hot fueling. And then we learned much later on that they were going to create a new position at the airport, which was going to observe these flights and report these rule violations. We were told back in March that this position was being created. This position is still not observing flights. And when we've asked how they're going to punish the contractors, we've gotten weird responses. And it wasn't until a few weeks ago that we learned from a county employee that the airport actually does have within the contract how they can punish the contractors. Like, they do have ways of punishing. They have never chosen to do it, even though we've provided them ample evidence of the fact that it's happening. If you look at the right, you can clearly see on the fourth month of this year that a plane is being fueled while there's people on board boarding, and then go all the way back to January of this year, and we see that migrants are on board while the plane is being fueled. And we've provided them evidence of this, and I've talked about it since last year, and still no action has been taken to punish this unsafe behavior. And I noticed questions in the chat. We will respond to questions. We're just going to wait till the very end. Could we go to the next slide, please? So another thing which was mentioned has been GEO buses obstructing observations. Just a quick reminder, GEO is the private company that runs the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma. They're the people that are funneling folks from the center to the airport to be deported, and from the airport to the center to be abused for profit. And a big problem that we've been having for the past couple of years, if you look at these photos, is that the buses will park in front of the camera in weird angles so that we can't see people getting shackled and frisked. This is very concerning to us for a variety of reasons. First and foremost is we can't see how people are being treated. There's been increasing reports of people arriving to detention centers with bruises and markings that they didn't have prior to coming there. And we cannot, observe or guarantee the safety of these people when that whole camera angle is being shut off. It's also hard for us because we're trying to obtain the number of people being deported. We're trying to get those numbers. It's really difficult when we can only see a small part of the plane, and we're concerned that we may miss a few people. And probably the most outrageous part of this is I mentioned the prior executive order by Dow Constantine in 2019. After that order was overturned in 2023, they passed a new order, and that's the one that I have on the slide. I'm not going to read it out because it's just letters and numbers. But this order, which was passed in March, stipulates that the county needs to share the numbers of people being brought in and out of the airport. That has not happened yet. Mind you, this was March of 2023. Now in July of 2026, we still don't have those numbers from the county. We have not obtained those numbers. We've been told this new position will get those numbers, but we've also been told that this new position, which hasn't started yet, will, from our understanding, primarily be observing through the cameras too. And I mean, look at the photos on the right. If they're using the same cameras as their volunteers, they're going to be just as constrained. So, we find it really troubling that we can't see the way folks are being treated. And when we're doing the county's job for them, the county's not working with us to stop this behavior by GEO. Uh, we met with John Parrott last year, and we shared these concerns about the buses, and he said, "Hey, we're actually passing a new rule so that the vehicles have to park in specific ways to allow emergency vehicles to pass through." And the way that they framed it made it sound like it was going to solve our problem or it was going to help. It hasn't helped at all. We've complained about, the obstruction to the county and the airport, and they've told us since emergency vehicles can still pass through, it's perfectly safe. But I mean, look at the first image on the slide. How is that safe for like an ambulance or any type of EMS vehicle to navigate when there's a bus basically pointed towards the plane? And while we really appreciate the new cameras, which are now pointed at the other side of the plane, that doesn't address the issue of the obstruction, since there's nothing pointing towards the front that allows us to see in between the buses and the aircraft. And that's just been one of our really big problems. Could we get a next slide, please? This is a lot of text. I'm just going to speak, but we've also had problems with transparency as to which people are coming in and out of the tarmac for deportation flights. In the first part of that slide, I basically list the executive order that passed in 2023. So after Dow Constantine came in January of this year, he passed a new order in February. They had promised that they were going to meet with us, but they didn't meet with us until much after that new order was passed. So we never got to give our input on what was going on at the airport, how the county could improve. They just moved ahead on their own, which is, it is very much outrageous because we've been here since 2023. We've been doing the county's work for them, yet the county did not ask for our opinions on how things could be improved. But the new order, which was passed pertaining to the airport, just said that they were going to affirm the past order and ensure that the past order is being enforced, which, as we just shared, is not being fully enforced. And there's a lot of parts of it which, to our knowledge, are still missing. One of the parts which is still missing was that it states that King County is going to support a congressional delegation who can go to Congress and basically share the problems with the airport and try to improve things. We've never heard about King County supporting or putting together any type of delegation to try to legislatively make things better at the airport. But the biggest thing is both orders essentially affirm transparency at the airport. And one of our biggest problems recently has kind of challenged that transparency. During the past few months, we've started to notice vans entering the tarmac carrying people within. These vans carry migrants, but to our knowledge, they're not coming from the Northwoods Detention Center. And that is very concerning to us because we have no idea where these people are coming from. Keep Washington Working is meant to prohibit state entities from working with ICE. But again, we don't know if they're coming from anywhere else in the state. We don't know if they're being brought from out of state. It's just very confusing to us and very concerning. We've asked the county and the airport repeatedly if they know the identity of these vans, and we've basically been told that they don't trigger protocols. Apparently, airport protocols only apply to vehicles that are 25 feet or longer for identification. We also asked how they're getting into the tarmac and how, because our volunteers have observed people coming out and using a scanner, but we've been told that it's because they're being led by Sky Service. John Parrott, the director of the airport, called these vans mystery vans, which I hope shows, I don't know, the gravity of the situation and how they're treating it. These quote unquote mystery vans are vans that are carrying, again, people to be shackled, and yet no one knows anything. The county's not being transparent, neither the airport. And it's ridiculous, right, that both of these entities can't tell us who's coming in and out and who's bringing in these people. Could we go to the next slide, please? Now, this is, by far the problem that continues to just be a big, I mean, it's at the center of just how bad things are because it should be one of the easiest things to do. Like I mentioned before, the executive order from 2023 states that the county needs to have an online log, or needs to have a log which includes the number of immigrants on a flight. The county has ample resources to have someone just be on the tarmac and count people. Just as an example, Yakima, right, which is a much more conservative government, when they had the ICE flights, they actually hired an individual to obtain the number of people on flights, and they were charging ICE's contractors. So the fact that Yakima was able to do it, but King County hasn't done so in 3 years, is ridiculous to us. Another section which they're supposed to have on the online log is what are the services that are being provided at the county airport to ICE. If you can tell on the online log on the right, there is no section which lists amount of people being brought in and out. There is a section which says services provided, but it says not available. That log got updated this year and they removed the services provided section. So that's also missing now. So rather than addressing our concerns, they just got rid of the services provided section, which goes against the two executive orders. And we still, 3 years later, more than 3 years later, do not have the number of migrants on flights. The only reason that we have the numbers as a community is because of La Resistencia and its volunteers, who are doing this, without any type of support. We are doing this on our own, and especially without any type of county support. Uh, and another big troubling part of the missing deportation numbers is that there will be times when we miss flights, and we don't miss flights out of our own will, right? It's not like we're choosing to not go and observe them. Like we mentioned before, ICE will often try to sneak flights in. We've had flights come in on holidays at like 9 p.m. And also just in the past couple of years, commercial flight trackers have gotten rid of ICE flights in general. We basically have to use get-arounds to track these flights because the county's not helping us. But one of our biggest reasons why we're missing these flights is because the county, or not the county, well, I guess the county airport is moving the parking spot for ICE to accommodate other events. For example, in May of this year, we were unable to observe a flight because ICE got moved to a different part of the airport because they needed a private jet. We later found out that private jet was for a Microsoft CEO summit. So King County Airport prioritized that Microsoft CEO summit over being able to observe flights. And since we're not allowed on the tarmac, we only have those 4 cameras. If the parking spot gets moved, we can't see ICE at all. Ops try to help by moving the cameras to the part of the airport where it was at, but they weren't working after that. And that's been a really big concern for us because it happened also last year where we got an email basically saying, hey, over the weekend, you won't be able to use the observation room because we have something going on at the waterfront. And when I reached out to the county individual, someone who works for the executive, they basically never responded when I said, what can we do to get around that? So we basically are facing the problem of a county which is not sharing the information they've legally are binded to, but who's also going out of their way to make things as difficult as possible and also prioritizing private events. Um, Before ending this section, a more recent example of that is the World Cup. I spent some of the early months of this year messaging the county and the executive saying, hey, what's going to happen with the World Cup? We know that it's coming. We know it's coming to Boeing Field. If you're willing to move us for a Microsoft CEO summit, we know for a fact that things are going to get bad for observations when, these sport teams are coming in. And for a while, we got no response. Our county liaison, I think it's their administrative officer, the person working for Gourmet, told us, we don't work with ICE, so we don't know that information. It wasn't until our last action at the airport last month that the day before that action, after weeks of leaving me undelivered, I got a response from John Parrott saying, hey, these flights are going to be coming in, and it's very likely that observations will be impacted. We'll do our best. That's it. You would think that the county would prepare. You would think that after coming to our action in January, the executive would go out of their way to ensure that we can observe and that things like the World Cup don't impact us being able to count the number of migrants and ensure their safety, but it's still happening. And this just continues to be a very big problem that I think is indicative of all the other issues. Next slide, please. We'll stay on this slide, but I'll bring up one more thing. Another big problem that we've been having is we've asked the county and the airport if we can keep the recordings of flights. This happened after one of our volunteers noticed a woman who appeared to be pregnant boarding the plane. they wanted to check if this was the case, and they also wanted to see if we could maybe help them or figure some stuff out. So they contacted ops, or they contacted the airport and they said, "Hey, can we obtain the flight recording?" And we were told, "We tape over the videos of the flights. We don't keep these recordings." And to us, this is outrageous because it's opposite of transparency. And we reached out to the airport and the county, and we were basically told, "We're going to have our tech and legal teams working on it." And we had that action in January. We have yet to hear anything about the county trying to store these flight recordings, trying to do anything about it. And it's outrageous because if we want to maybe check the identity of someone coming on a flight, if a family contacts us saying, "Hey, my relative may have been deported. We don't know where they are. Are they? Can you check the flight to see if it was them?" We don't have access to that. We only have access to what we capture live and in the moment. And like I previously mentioned, what we capture live and in the moment is often unreliable. So that's just another example of the county not storing information properly. Uh, Moving on to the next section, I just wanted to talk about some of the inadequate observation conditions. Uh, so when we initially started observations, we were located at the main terminal of the airport. We were shuffled between rooms at the main terminal uh, and other spaces until eventually we ended up where we're currently at. And I think we were moved out of one room because they were going to give it to a company that was operating there. And whenever the airport has needed a space, we've just been kicked out and moved to another. We've always kind of been put on the back burner. Uh, and currently, we're in a room that's not within the main terminal. We're like at the corner of the airport. If anyone here attended the community observation events that we did a few weeks ago, you noticed that we were kind of distant. That makes it hard when our volunteers want to enter the room. They need to call ops to be let in. And ops are all the way back at the airport, so we need to wait 10, 15 minutes, and we don't know if we're missing important information. Uh, the room itself is very small. I feel like only maybe 4 people could sit there comfortably, and there's only one entrance/exit leading into it. Uh, it's also even besides being small, the fact that it only has one entrance has also made us concerned about safety. It's also far away from the main terminal, so our volunteers are kind of secluded. Uh, so we were told by King County Airport authorities. We were told by the director. We did a tour on March 19 of this year that the executive order that was passed in February, the one that also mentioned the airport and affirming that past order, that order was also got a lot of news coverage because it mentioned blocking ICE from certain county spaces. We were told that that order did not stop ICE from entering the building where we're observing. We were told it does stop them from entering the room, but it's does the room have a lock, Stan or Aaron? Because when I've gone in, I don't think I've noticed a lock. Does it have a lock from the inside? I don't think so, right? I don't know, but we haven't noticed ways of again, we're being told that ICE can enter the building, just not the room. We've also just had a few unpleasant experiences. I mean, some as of May of 2026, when individuals will come in and antagonize our observers. One of the worst examples was in December of 2024. We had a far right reporter enter our observation room in the terminal and start harassing our observers. Right, they didn't come in to observe; they were there to try to get a reaction out of folks. When the King County Sheriff was called, they reprimanded La Resistencia, and they were basically on our case instead of talking to the agitator. And all the while this was happening, the airport director, John Parrott, was standing in the corner of the room, just silent, saying nothing. So how are we supposed to believe that these people are supporting our efforts to observe and are doing the best when, we have these far-right agitators and they're just staying quietly while we're the ones getting in trouble when we're doing the county's job for them? Uh, we've complained about the space. We've said it's unsafe. And when this has happened, we're told it's public. I want to call into question how it's public if we need to call for permission to enter the space when it's locked and the space does not reflect anything that you would expect from a public government building or amenity. Can we go to the next slide? I want to show. Yeah, this is a picture of one of our community observations. Maybe you'll recognize yourself there. I asked folks if we could take a photo because I wanted to show how small the viewing room is. As you can tell, there's a table in the center, and everyone is standing. And I took the photo. My back is against the wall in this photo. Just so you understand, there's not other space behind me. I literally have it right here, and I'm just taking the photo. And there's probably 12 of us, and it's incredibly cramped. And really, when the community shows up to the room, if the room can't accommodate the community, we don't understand how you can claim that it's public. So it feels like the county wants to claim that it's a public space and say that anyone can come in and antagonize people and make people feel unsafe, but at the same time, they're willing to give us the resources that one would expect from such a situation. Uh, Also, ironically, if you look at the back next to Aaron in the image, you see the two monitors. Uh, they're just loading. That's what our volunteers often see. And both days that we came in, that's what was going on. We were seeing the frozen screens, we were seeing the buffering. And the first time when we entered the observation room, one of the ops people kind of hung around the back while we were complaining about it. And then as we were talking to people, we could see a mouse monitor moving around and things getting fixed. So, like, if they can do these things remotely, I don't understand why these problems can't be fixed. It just feels like we're an afterthought and we're kind of seen antagonistically, like we're in opposition to the airport, when in reality, our only job is to just make sure that people are safe. And we want the airport to work with us to make this the case, and the county to make its airport work with us. Um, Next slide, please. Okay, so another problem in this. Okay, I'm we. This is the problem that I hear the volunteers bring up the most when we meet is the camera conditions. I mean, it should be a testament that I think both Stanley and Aaron discussed the cameras when they were talking about their experiences. Since 2023, these cameras, I mean, they're terrible. They're incredibly inconsistent. They'll shake. They'll just freeze. They'll turn black. Since they set them up, rather than it being like a direct feed, I think they're just accessing a live stream online. So there'll often be problems with that too. We've been It's very clear that the county doesn't want us within the space. They set up an online site where people can monitor remotely, and when we did the tour this year, even the director made like a joke about it, saying like, you can do this at home, like you don't have to be here. Like, it's very clear they don't want us there, so it doesn't surprise us that it's so hard to observe there. And we've felt that it's important to be there in person. One, because ultimately, if we stop showing up, if our observers stop, if the immunity stops carrying, they're just going to completely forget about us. It's all going to be online. We're not going to be able to access the space anymore. And also because when the buses are blocking the flights, when the planes are landing weirdly, when the airport just obstructing things, being on the ground allows us to maybe try to capture more things that we wouldn't if we were at home. Uh, Another problem that we have is, so the rules for the airport that I mentioned, the supplemental rules and regulations, they state that before any large vehicle, the GeoBuses classifies as, uh, enter the tarmac, they need to notify airport operations. If airport operations are being notified of the buses coming in, then they should be able to make sure that the cameras are set up and ready when our volunteers enter. This is like rarely the case. Uh, the last thing, yeah, I want to mention is we've been talking about these things since 2025. I just want to emphasize that it's not like we're bringing up these problems for the first time, and then the county can be like, "Oh, we didn't know." Like, these are things that they've known about for years, and nothing has been done. These are things that we've met about. We've met with Gourmet. We've met with John Parrott, like over Zoom. We've had direct conversations with them. This is not stuff that they're discovering. This is stuff that they're well aware of that they've refused to do anything about, which is why we need community support to make things better. Next slide, please. Uh, Before our call to action, we wanted to share a message from our director, Rufina. Rufina, I found this photo of you online. I hope you don't mind. I thought it was flattering.
Gracias, Guadalupe. Gracias a todos por asistir. Mi nombre es Rufina, como Guadalupe lo mencionó, ¿verdad? Y soy la directora ejecutiva de la Resistencia. Gracias por asistir a este webinar. Espero que sea productivo para cada uno de nosotros, para conocer sobre todo el trabajo que hay detrás de cada una de nuestras campañas, que muchas veces no tan solo es una observación, ¿verdad? Es más trabajo el que implica para poder terminar con todas las detenciones y deportaciones. Y cómo podemos mirar a través de todo este trabajo, ¿verdad? Nuestros compañeros, cómo la deshumanización continúa a través de todos estos vuelos de deportación, cómo las autoridades, ¿verdad? Quienes tienen más dinero están lucrando con cada una de, de nuestra gente, de nuestra comunidad. Es importante conocer el trabajo de cada organización, para apoyarla, pero sobre todo para no también duplicar, que nos unamos y todos podemos trabajar en colaboración y no estar tratando de algunas veces hacer el trabajo que otra organización ya estamos haciendo. Es importante también de seguir trabajando juntos para hacer ese llamado a la acción, a los políticos, sobre todo, para poder terminar con todas estas detenciones. Estas campañas que estamos haciendo, ¿verdad? Es no tan solo exigir que terminen y sean transparentes, sino que terminen con la colaboración entre los aeropuertos como el King County, eh, que terminen de colaborar con ICE y GIO y terminen de seguir lucrando con nuestras comunidades. Estamos mirando, como he estado compartiendo cada uno de nuestros voluntarios, Guadalupe, nuestro coordinador, que ha hecho un gran trabajo en esta campaña, cómo el terror, ¿verdad? Sigue después de haber estado detenido por tanto tiempo en un centro de detención, siendo deshumanizado, siendo pisoteado psicológicamente, continúa aún más en estos vuelos de deportación, muchas veces sin comer por un día completo o 2 días. Este trabajo ha sido realmente impresionante e impactante para nosotros como Resistencia porque estamos presentando cada una de las pruebas que los políticos o los altos ejecutivos están haciendo con cada uno de nosotros. Y todo esto lo podemos decir porque aún más allá de esas deportaciones, seguimos en comunicación con cada una de las personas que están siendo deportadas. Ellos son los que nos dicen cómo están siendo maltratados en estos vuelos, ¿verdad? De deportación, cómo son deshumanizados y totalmente quebrados cada una de sus personas. Entonces, vamos a continuar hasta cerrar este centro de detención, hasta terminar con las separaciones de familia. No vamos a parar y por eso es que necesitamos el apoyo de cada uno de ustedes para que sigamos exigiendo, sobre todo a los gobernadores, no tan solo de este estado, sino de todo el país, para que terminemos con estas detenciones y deportaciones. Y bueno, y también para nosotros, ¿verdad? En este estado, poder lograr cerrar este centro de detención ubicado aquí en Tacoma. Gracias a todos y gracias, Guadalupe. Y gracias a cada uno de los voluntarios que hace posible cada una de estas observaciones para la resistencia. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Rufina. Uh, and I just want to underscore what Rufina said, which is we wouldn't be where we are without our volunteers. Our volunteers are ultimately, our foundation, and they've sacrificed countless hours in order to be able to carry out these observations. And we're very thankful to everyone who's given many times long drives, frustrating conversations with ops, uh, camera rolls full of photos, which are then uploaded, which are shared, all that stuff. Thank you. Josefina just shared in La Resistencia uh, our call to action. So I'm just going to bump it one more time and I'll respond to everything. Yes. So one of the biggest purposes of doing this webinar, besides sharing the report, and we're hoping that you can all share it as well, is we're organizing a petition, which is being shared with both the county executive and the airport director. Ultimately, we've learned that if we continue complaining to the airport director, nothing's going to happen unless his higher ups take action. So we're really hoping that if everyone has time, you can share this link. We posted it on our Instagram too, and send signatures to both the county and the airport, letting them know that what they're doing is unacceptable. So please, again, this has been an ongoing problem for years. A lot of these issues, such as the missing numbers, go all the way back to 2023. And as La Resistencia has continued this work and more people have become aware, the problems with obstructing the observations have only increased. It's clear that they're responding to this increased scrutiny out of fear, and their fear response is just making it harder for us to find out the truth. So please fill out the call to action and share it so that more folks can, let their thoughts be heard. Could we go to the next section, please? Okay. Before wrapping up, we talked a lot about a lot of different things. So we wanted to have a Q&A section. Folks have been posting in the chat. There's been some resources shared on Tracking Nice. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Timothy. And I just shared the link again. So if anyone has any questions, I think they can raise hands, right?
Yeah, for folks that have questions, if you could either raise your hand with the raise hand function or place your question in the chat and we will answer it as they come. So, any questions? Yeah, I see Christine.
Would it be helpful if we each asked our members of Congress to go and observe with you? So you can point out those problems.
We definitely want to be in contact with all different elected officials, and we are in contact with some Congress people who know about our work at the airport. It would be great to connect with other offices that we might not be in connection with. So Guadalupe, would you mind putting your email in the chat in case folks have connections that they'd like to make? Please feel free to reach out to Guadalupe, our flight campaign coordinator, and we can talk more about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the longest running flight observation campaign that exists. So my hat's off to LR for that, for leading us through it. Have we seen other pressure campaigns in different parts of the country result in wins?
Oh, sure. I actually think we have someone who could share some of those victories. But we have, I know that Ground Ice and Tim Smith, he's in the chat, that they've had successes with some of their pressure campaigns. Should we ask him to share about what they've been doing? Yeah. Hey. Here, let me try. Sorry.
You're asking me to say something.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I apologize. I got mixed up with names. I think.
Well, I'll just say something because we've come a long way. Maru and everybody for shutdown. I'm in Pennsylvania now, and I can remember way back in 2004 chasing the first buses from Tacoma to King County. Bunch of us way before now. You've come so far. This just brings tears to my eyes. Stay with this. I'm reaching out to you guys now here in Pennsylvania, another GEO facility. We just made our first successful intercept of an ICE flight, which have picked up incredibly since December. So full circle, learning again. We don't have cameras at the airport. We don't have the kind of interface you have. We're going to get that. So solidarity until they're all free, and bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tim. I apologize, but I really appreciate that, and I sent you an email also trying to set up a meeting. we've been on conversations with groups like Ground Ice and Thomas Kimball with them, and they've actually been successful on the East Coast, pressuring some airlines in their working with ICE and chartering aircraft. So we have seen some efforts succeed. I think ultimately we were successful in working to stop Signature from working with ICE, even here in King County. The problem was that Sky Service quickly stepped up. The only thing now is that King County Airport only has three different FBOs. They have Modern Aviation, which stopped working with them all the way back in 2023. We're not sure if they would work with them again, but seeing as how ICE didn't come back with Modern when they resumed flight in 2019, seeing as how ICE didn't come back with Modern, we don't assume that's the case. Then we have Signature, who stopped working with ICE, and now we're at Sky Service. So we really do want to pressure Sky Service to stop working with ICE. At that point, the problem will be that ICE will realistically go to another part of the state. So ultimately, this is an effort that's going to have continue to be ongoing. Debbie?
Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for your work that you're doing. As somebody who has retired from a King County agency, I'm distressed at what my former employer is doing. And I'm just wondering if there's been any pressure on some of the council members to help pressure the executive's office, because it is the council that approves the budget, for the airport and, all of the King County agencies. And I'm just also wondering if there's been any work with, I don't know, and I don't know about the airport. I mean, like if their employees are union members, like sort of, some of the employee groups, if there's been just any communication with them, or if you think that would be helpful or not. So again, thank you.
I can answer that. So the only council member that we've been able to work with has been Council Member Teresa Mosqueda. She has been an incredible ally for La Resistencia and really accountable to us as a community-led group. And she has really been the one to be able to get us meetings with the executive, as well as putting some of the pressure on the airport director and deputy director as well. So we really want to give props to Councilmember Teresa Mosqueda. Other council members we have not worked closely with and they have not been vocal about their support about our work. So if one of your King County Council members you'd like to send a letter and ask why they are not working with us, please feel free to do so. We very much encourage it. And we have been in contact with at least one union that has King County airport workers, but we understand that many people in this particular political climate, just in general, feel very scared about retaliation. So we have not gotten super close on working with the King County employees, but really excited to hear, Debbie, that you were a King County employee and that you didn't know that this was happening, right? So we're definitely open to speaking with more employees, unions, and groups that represent the King County employees. So if you're interested in connecting us with some contacts, Guadalupe's email will be in the chat one more time here so that you can connect with us. Thanks, Debbie. More questions? There were a couple questions in the chat that I just wanted to uplift. One of them was how to become a volunteer observer. And once again, we want to really deeply appreciate and thank our volunteer observers because, as Guadalupe mentioned, La Resistencia is putting our own resources into this campaign, and our volunteers put in their own time and resources into this work as well. And in the chat, there is a form that you can fill out to be a volunteer with La Resistencia. Please just make sure to make a note that you're interested in the airport observations specifically. The other question in the chat was about a letter template that people could personalize. And I'm very excited to let folks know that actually the link I had put earlier, which I put once again, for the letter campaign to send to the director of King County Airport, as well as Executive Sahile, can be edited. So you can personalize the letter as much as you would like. We have a basic template there, but you're welcome to add your own demands and your own personal reason as to why you want accountability for the ICE flights and for the ICE flights to end at King County Airport.
Well, I want to thank everyone for attending. Last chance, any more questions before we wrap things up for the day?
It's like you got a flight scheduled tomorrow.
Thank you so much. The flights, typically we see flights coming in on Saturdays, well, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, but with the World Cup, the flights have been coming in very hectic times. We've been seeing them move to Yakima sometimes, but we've also had flights come in, like you mentioned, on Fridays, and we've had 2 a day. So I think the one thing we've learned observing these flights is that there's no such thing as patterns. Things are going to change a lot. But thanks for the heads up, Tim. Yeah. And we've also learned that some flights are very late. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you for giving up the time. We've shared the report. We've shared the call to actions, the letters. So please share with your networks, share with your communities. I've shared my email in the chat if you want to reach out, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, everyone.
Read them all.